Hi everyone, it's Effie. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have Emily, and she is an illustrator, artist, and she's also the author of this healing journal that I got on Amazon, and we're going to be talking about that today. Also, I just want to mention that Emily does not live with arthritis. She lives with other chronic illnesses, but as we all know, a lot of the times we experience the same things, whether that be symptoms or just life challenges.
So, like you said, I'm an artist and a writer, and I recently published my first book that I wrote and illustrated, The Healing Journal. Also, a patient advocate myself. I'm the co founder and co director of Los Angeles Dysautonomia Network here in LA, where I live. So, I've been running a support group for people with POTS and other forms of dysautonomia for the past several years. And while I don't have rheumatoid arthritis myself, I do live with an autoimmune disease, which some doctors call lupus and some call kind of a non-specific systemic autoimmune disease called undifferentiated connective tissue disorder. I also live with a form of dysautonomia called POTS, CRPS, and Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So I have kind of like this trifecta of conditions going on. So I can definitely relate to the experience of living with chronic pain and fatigue and things like that.
Lupus is also a form of arthritis, isn't it? I think it is kind of.
Many people with lupus do have like inflammation in the joints and things
Right.
like that. Yeah. So some of the symptoms definitely overlap, and some of them are treated very similarly as well.
So do you see rheumatologists for your conditions, or what do you see?
Yeah, I see a number of different specialists. I see a pain specialist, rheumatologist, cardiologist are kind of the main specialists that I work with. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I pretty much have seen all those too. So that's like, kind of the connecting factor here is that, like, even though you don't have rheumatoid arthritis, you still see rheumatologists, and you do a bunch of other healing modalities, maybe not the same medication, but other alternative functional medicine probably is overlapping too. Because I know you talk about that in your book as well. And you can share a little bit about how your diagnosis started too. And, you know, we'll lead into your inspiration for creating this.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I've definitely dealt with a lot of different inflammatory issues that come up from, having this underlying autoimmune condition. I've gotten inflammation in the lungs, and my eyes, joints, kind of all over the place. And I started getting symptoms probably a little over 10 years ago is when they started getting more severe and really impacting my day-to-day life. My career started off in education, and I was an elementary school teacher at the time. And not only was I getting all these inflammatory issues, but I was just kind of picking up everything from the kids. Working with little kids, unfortunately, are exposed to lots of germs. And I was unable to like fight off the colds and respiratory infections and everything that I was getting. So I went out on disability for a while to kind of figure out, what was going on. And it took me many years actually to find answers and to get properly diagnosed with several conditions that I live with and to get finally properly treated. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to return to classroom teaching. So I had to kind of totally start over and rebuild my life kind of like within the confines of the illness placed on me. So that took a long time to definitely adjust to. I spent many years when I was looking for answers mostly just bedbound. I mean, I was facing like crippling fatigue and dizziness, and my symptoms were really severe. But I'm thankful now to finally be with a team of specialists that have really been able to help me. And now my symptoms are relatively well managed. There's still, I still get flares, definitely. But I'm in a much better place with it all. So, and painting actually has been a big part of my healing journey. So I took a lot of art classes like back in high school, but I had really been away from it for a long time. And it was just something I hadn't really made the space and time for. And I was dealing with some really tough symptoms. Back in, I think it was like 2015, I really started painting. I was dealing with a really severe like CRPS flare, like really bad nerve pain. And I was just kind of looking for a distraction from the symptoms and just, like an escape or an outlet. So I decided to sign up for a painting class at a studio down the street from me. And that was just like one of the best decisions I ever made because I pretty much haven't stopped painting since. I totally fell in love with it. I really started to experience a lot of like the therapeutic benefits of painting. It just kind of gave me energy. It's like a very meditative process. You're kind of like in this flow state where you lose track of time and things like that. You're not really thinking about anything else. So it just provided me a kind of just really like an escape from kind of the realities that I was facing with the things that were going wrong with my body. In the years to come, painting has taken up more and more space in my life, which has been a wonderful thing. It's definitely brought me a lot of joy, kind of given me a sense of purpose again, too, especially after having to leave my job because of my illness and everything, too. So I've really embraced painting, and I'm here in my home studio full of my paintings behind me.
Oh
So
my God, I know. I was going to say your paintings are so beautiful, and I love the the yellow color on the wall and everything. It's so like vibrant. I love it.
thank you. I love vibrant color too. So I'm trying to
Yeah.
surround myself with it.
And yeah, my sister's a teacher too, so I totally get like getting sick during like flu and cold season, and she's always been trying to like keep herself safe. She doesn't live with a chronic disease or anything, but I know when those times come around and I'm around her, I'm like, yeah, stay away from me a little bit. But no, yeah, for me personally, I love flowers. I've gravitated towards like drawing flowers or doodling when I was a kid, since I was a kid. So I really like doing art when I can as well. I really haven't found the time to do it myself, because I know, like you said, you have to find space for it. But when I do sit down and I draw or I like um, color, it just brings me a lot of like peace too, especially if I'm going through something. And I got this little watercolor kit too. And I know that in this book here, the Healing Journal, you have watercolor illustrations, right? So I
I-
was like, oh my God, this is like inspired me to open that little watercolor kit I got and like start doing something with it. Yeah, but I've always wanted to like enroll in like a class too. So it's nice to hear, your story around that and like how it helped you, because I'm sure it can help others. And I think others out there probably could relate to what you're saying too. So yeah.
Great. That makes me so happy that it's inspired you to try watercolor. That's wonderful.
Yeah. No, seriously, I bought like this little I don't know what the company is, but it was like a year and a half ago, but I haven't opened it. So I was just like, it's just been sitting there. But I've, kind of played with other things I got. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, what kind of brought you to create this though, the Healing Journal?
Yeah, good question. So, I am a big fan of journaling just to begin with, and I love using guided journals. I think sometimes just like the anxiety of like the blank page can be a
Yeah.
little scary with journaling, right? So I've always been someone that likes kind of like a little bit of a prompt or a guide, to
Me
get me
too.
started. So I've used lots of guided journals. There's many guided journals out there just to generally cope with stress or anxiety, things like that, mindfulness, gratitude journals. And so I was kind of like searching and searching for one that related to, the experience of chronic illness and disability. And so when I couldn't find one, I was kind of toyed with the idea of making one myself. And I just think in general, there's just not enough resources out there for people with illness and disability to begin with. So I had been thinking about it, for a couple of years about maybe trying to create this on my own. And then when the pandemic started, in like beginning of 2020, I kind of took that as a sign. As like, okay, I'm going to be stuck at home for a while. I have like no distractions. So maybe this is my time to actually sit down and start writing and painting and making it happen. So that's kind of how it got started. And I knew also that, I didn't want to write a book that says, here are the 10 steps to follow to manage your illness, because I don't really believe that there's like a one size fits all approach to healing and coping and managing illness, especially since like you and I have different chronic illnesses. So of course, what works for me might not work for you. I created it as like a guided journal to kind of serve as like a guide or a resource to empower the reader to kind of figure it out on their own, like figure out what are the best self-care tools and strategies for them and their illness, and what are the best ways for them to advocate for their health, and to kind of cultivate self-compassion and things like that. So I'm hoping that it's empowering for the reader to kind of figure it out for themselves. My cousin Rebecca was a very close friend of mine who unfortunately lost her battle to chronic illness several years ago, but she was just full of so much joy and positivity through all the difficulties that she faced. I was really trying to kind of infuse the book with her positivity and her energy. So that's why it's a tribute to her. And just, I've learned a lot just from observing the way she lived her life with just, she was always able to laugh through things, and I really admired that. So definitely learned a lot from her, and I'm hoping that the book kind of echoes her positive mentality.
Just by looking at the illustrations, and that's beautiful, by the way, like it just makes you feel so happy. I was feeling down earlier today, and then I looked at this page and it was like so nice, the butterflies and all the bright colors of the flowers and everything. Like, and I love how at the end too, you have a glossary of plants. So like marigold that you have here, lilies, sunflowers. Those are some of my favorites. I love how you like give like a suggested way to use the journal, which is nice because sometimes people want to use it their own way, but you just give like kind of like gentle reminders of what you can do with the affirmations. Because, for instance, I'll just turn to one or so. I breathe light into my pain. So like that's like an affirmation that you have, and you kind of give like tips on like what to do with the affirmation, how to repeat it throughout the day. And then like they're writing prompts here. It's like close your eyes, take 5 deep breaths. With each inhale, imagine sending bright, warm, healing light to areas where you're experiencing pain or discomfort. Write about how you feel after this exercise. It's not like stressful. Like some journals out there, they make you overwhelmed or anxious. At least that's what I've experienced. But I feel like this is so simple, to the point.
Yeah, no, thank you for recognizing that. Yeah, so as you said, kind of like each 2-page spread of the book contains like a positive affirmation on one side and then the journaling prompts that somehow relate to that affirmation on the other. And the way I kind of developed these was that through kind of my own experience and also the experience of talking with tons of other people who also live with chronic illnesses through the support group that I run, I've kind of realized that there's all these common problems or issues that all of us that are living with any kind of illness are facing. So each of the prompts and affirmations are kind of tackling one of those issues. Like, for example, I think something that's very common to people with chronic illnesses is having like interruptions to their career or schooling and maybe needing to redefine what success looks like for them. One example here. So for this one, the affirmation is I create my own definition of success. And then the prompts that go with it would be describe what a successful day looks like for you. What might a successful year look like for you? And how has your definition of success shifted since you developed an illness? So even like I've mentioned how I've had to totally change careers. This has been a big one for me that I work on all the time. But I think that's an example of trying to just shift your mindset a little bit when developing an illness and thinking about what success might look like, even celebrating some of the really small successes. Like if you have rheumatoid arthritis, I imagine you might get inflammation or pain even in the hands or things like that. So sometimes maybe even like buttoning up a shirt might be a success. For me with POTS, I get a lot of dizziness that's related to heat, and sometimes even a shower can just exhaust me. So sometimes if I'm in a flare, a successful day might look like being able to take a shower or make a meal. And for people that don't live with illnesses, those things might be no-brainers, but I think it's important to kind of celebrate those small successes too when you live with an illness. So.
And I see that it's like been traditionally published, so that's amazing. I mean, obviously self-publishing is a great way too, but I mean, I know that I've heard of the experiment and they're pretty good. So congratulations. But yeah, like if people like want to kind of get into this, because I know there's like I've met some other, chronic illness warriors who've kind of gone down this path and made their own journals. So how was your like art process when it comes to this? If anyone out there may want to create one too.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is like just get started.
Yeah.
Like I said, I had this idea for a while and I toyed with it. But it's like once I started working on it, like I just got this momentum and I just kept going. And I kind of like fueled more ideas as I was going too. So I think that's the biggest step with any creative endeavor is just start. I know it sounds like overly simple, but there's a lot of truth in that. And, I, like you said, there are a lot of like really great self-publishing options out there. And that's kind of what I had thought that I would do in the beginning because I've never published a book before. I don't have any connections with the publishing world or anything like that. But I decided to just give it a shot and I wrote up a proposal and sent it to different publishers. So yeah, I'm super grateful that it ended up working out with my publisher, The Experiment. But you never know until you try, and I think my story is like a good example of just put yourself out there and give it a shot. And definitely living with a chronic illness, we all have like such a unique story to tell. Only you can tell. So I definitely like encourage people that if they want to share their story in a book form, like absolutely go for it. Yeah, I do commissions and I have several of my original pieces for sale. So people can find me on my website, which is my full name, www.emilysunez.com. I also hang out on Instagram a lot. So you can find me at Emily the Painter. It's Emily_the_painter. I'm always checking DMs and things like that. So definitely reach out.
Your links will be in the description box below. So if anyone wants to connect with you, they can find that there. I mean, do you even use this for yourself? Do you use your own book?
Yeah, I was gonna say part of the reason why I created this is because, like I said, I was looking for this
Yeah.
resource. So I am definitely using it myself. And there are a lot of, actual scientific studies that have come out that show kind of the actual health benefits of using positive affirmations and of having a regular journaling practice. So yeah, I just definitely want to share using positive affirmations on a regular basis can definitely help you develop a more mindful and positive outlook. It can improve kind of your self-worth, self-image, things like that. And journaling on a regular basis actually can improve both mental and physical health. So I find these studies to be super fascinating that, having a regular journaling practice can do things like boost immunity, lower blood pressure, improve mood, things like that. So, the practices in the book are actually rooted in science. And so I hope that people find them to be soothing and empowering, and definitely hope that when people pick up this book, they just at least feel seen and validated in their experience and realize that they're not alone and, struggling with chronic illness.
And people can find this on Amazon, right? This is where I got it, but is there any other place that people can find it at? They don't want to go on Amazon, or is it?
Yeah, it's available everywhere books are sold. So you can find it online, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Target, and it's in some of the physical bookstores as well. If you go to my website, emilysunez.com/books, I have all the links to the various retailers that have it available.
I'm also going to look forward to incorporating this as well in my little routine. So
Great. Yeah, and I think it's so important to just find a routine with any kind of self-care that just
yeah.
works for you. And maybe setting an expectation of journaling every day might be unrealistic. I
Yeah.
love the idea of like self-care Saturday or self-care Sunday to
Yeah.
sit down with a cup of tea or coffee and do your journaling or whatever it is that you do for self-care. So I think just like creating some kind of ritual around it.
Thank you for coming on, Emily. And you guys just make sure to find her book in the description box below. And yeah, make sure to connect with her if you guys have any questions.
Thank you so much for having me here. I
Yeah.
think it was a joy to talk with you.